Hi there, and welcome to the Night Circus. For tonight, you will be known as my little jesters. Yes, I'm fully aware of the possible cringe and weirdness of that whole sentence, but fuck it, I'm rolling with it. Because I'm a stay, and we're fucking clowns. Which is ironic, considering the fact I have a fear of clowns. And I'm struggling to watch the fucking teaser for their new comeback. Anyways, I'm still figuring out the layout of my K-pop content outside of reactions, since there's only so many things you can actually do. Also, I'm not very smart, so yay, there's that too. But just so people don't have the chance to do it before me, yes, my layout and my name is inspired by a K-tuber called Everglowup. Might look a little different, but I did get inspired by her. I really like her content and her format, but I'm not trying to steal it or anything like that. I just like it. Plus there's no chance I would be able to do it justice like she does. Mine is more just boring. But I've wanted to talk about the topic of virtual idols in K-pop for a while now, but for a few reasons, mostly personal and technical, Filmora fucking hates me. But I decided to talk about it now because why not? For a basic description, virtual idols are digitally created humanoids who perform and make music in place of the actual people who voice them in songs. They do sing, dance, and apparently they have their own personalities. They also have their own albums. In this video, I will be exploring as much of every branch in this topic as I can, both positives and negatives, and what it might mean for the future of K-pop. Disclaimers. 1, if you couldn't tell already. My accent might be a little difficult to understand. It might not. I feel like it might be a bit difficult. Also, I do swear a lot, so there is that if you don't like a lot of swearing. Especially if you feel like it's unnecessary swearing. This may not be your video because I am Irish and that is our language. This is all my personal opinions on the world of K-pop and virtual idols based on information I've found on the internet. So like it's not things that I can steal, it's just, oh, that's stuff I found and I'm talking about it. You're free to have a differing opinion that you can share in the comments. I'm not going to judge you if you have a differing opinion. Instead of saying virtual idols all the time, because it's a long name and for some reason is a slight tongue twister for me, I'll be referring to them as VIs or VIs. I will be mentioning idols such as MAVE, AESPA and KDA, and maybe various other idols. Regardless of what I mention, positive or negative, do not send any hate to anyone I talk about. I don't condone that behaviour. Trigger warnings for topics that might be involved. Abuse, mental health, eating disorders, that type of stuff. But when they show up, I will place a warning on the screen so you can have a bit of a warning before it actually comes up, just in case you want to skip it. So what are the positives for having virtual idols in K-pop? Creativity unleashed, as I have labelled it. With using digitally made idols both in and out of videos, so in music videos and then physically having them on a stage, this would let those in charge of making the music and the music videos for the group actually explore different avenues. They don't need to worry about people thinking, oh, that scene is definitely green screened. Because really, the whole fucking thing is, they don't need to worry about a member being missing from filming for a music video because they're not real. They don't need to worry about having to keep like consistency with outfits or makeup, for example, in case like if they have to jump into a pool, they don't have to redo the makeup or get their clothes dried because they're not real. It would make the editing of any of their videos a lot easier, seeing as they don't need to have any worries about the little details like that. But this also lets them do random shit like throw them into space to float around, but put them in a volcano for shits and giggles because they can't get hurt. Give them incredibly strange dance routines that humans wouldn't be able to do because we have bones. Because of the fact that everything is digitally created. Just in case people aren't aware of the fact that this is slightly scripted, I have bullet points written down so I know what to talk about, otherwise I would just be going off of my brain. I have content down as one of the positives, and what I meant by that, even though I never ended up writing down anything because I forgot, before I started recording this. They're able to create more content more frequently because of the fact that they're not actually having to wait for idols to show up or idols to get their makeup done, their clothes. They're not having to wait for the set to get set up. They don't have to work on the same type of schedule that they have to work with real idols. And because of that, because everything is digitally created, everything would be there in the studio that they would need to work with. So they can create more content a lot faster for the fans, so you have more to watch. Clothing safety. Because they're digitally made, the V's don't have any problems with clothing malfunctions, like skirts or dresses riding up, shoes being the wrong size. Region. Give the girl her actual fucking shoe size, please. Having to rip your jewelry pieces off because they're uncomfortable or annoying during dances, hair getting in their face or sticking to their makeup, shoes and jewelry falling off. There's no worries about this or getting shit for it from worried, sometimes overreacting. Fans, because it's not real, so they can digitally create the clothes to just stick to the idol's skin instead of, I don't fucking know, give them clothing that's the right size. Just because there's safety shorts does not mean that you can then be like, oh, well they have safety shorts on, so I can just make them wear a top and call it a dress. Bitch. Okay. Privacy. Obviously, the V's themselves are fake, they're not real people, but the voices behind them are. They're not digitally creating the voices who sing them, that is actual people. And because they're not the ones performing physically, and they're not being named or shown, then they can actually live regular private lives without worrying about being harassed by paparazzi like Dispatch, cunts, or sasaengs, or generally annoying fans who don't know the concept of boundaries unless the same situation was happening to them. Then they have a problem with it. Scandals. Lip syncing. Dating. Saying slurs. Forgetting their dances or lyrics. Existing. Not a thing to worry about because they'll be created as the perfect idol. They won't be able to make any mistakes like slipping on stage or mixing up their words like stuttering or crying at their friend's fucking funeral. Any of you that shat on Yuri for that, seriously go fuck yourself. I don't understand how crying at your friend's funeral makes you a pick-me girl or justifies them getting hate, but fuck you. But none of that would happen. Again, because they would create it as the perfect idol. They can't make mistakes. And if they did make them make mistakes, that's a bit weird because you know that they're digitally created, so they're intentionally making them make mistakes. It would be very weird. Health. A fair warning for this one. This one is going to involve the mental health aspect of things and other health related things, but it's going to be a bit morbid considering it is in the positive section. But I did say I was going to bring up as much as I could because these V's aren't real, and any possible hate or criticism, putting it lightly there, they may get isn't going directly towards a real human being. We as the fans, and hopefully people with some common sense and empathy, don't have to worry about the mental or physical health of the V's. They're not being overworked to the point that they collapse, or to sing for hours on end until they lose their voice or destroy it entirely. They're not being underpaid or not paid at all. Their private lives aren't being exposed. They're not being followed home. They're not being forced to go on dangerous diets. They're not getting depressed because of hate. They're not being bullied, and they won't be able to commit suicide. Yes, that's extremely dark and I'm aware of that, but it is a fact. The majority of the time being in the K-pop community, it's genuinely exhausting, for me at least, because of the fact that idols getting so much hate for no reason is so normalized by both the companies and the fans. It's not just K-nets. I know that a lot of international fans always blame it on the K-nets. It's not always them. Yes, because of the whole beauty standards stuff and the way things are normalized in Korea, they do play a part, but they're not always the main problem. Like, and international stans are a problem as well in this regard. We've already had multiple idols take their lives due to pressure or hate from people who still haven't seemed to learn that just because you're behind a fucking screen doesn't make your hatred less effective. Because if you really thought that it wouldn't get a reaction, then you wouldn't have said it at all. You wanted the reaction. You wanted them to respond. You wanted them to hate themselves, to feel like shit, to be miserable, but only when it has a really, really bad response, then you feel bad, because now you're gonna get shit for it. That's the only time you feel bad. You know what that's called? toxic and generally fucked up. And as dark as that is, it's something you don't have to worry about with the VIs, because it's not something they can experience unless the companies are that disgusting that they'd make them experience fake depression just to be relatable. Which is another thing, I'm not gonna talk about it here necessarily because it's a different topic altogether, but companies and fans seem to have this obsession with idols being relatable. Not every human being is relatable. You shouldn't expect them to be. You shouldn't expect everyone to be good people, because that's just not how things work. But they have this obsession with relatability because it draws people in. Fans tend to use their relatability to... I don't know if anyone's mentioned this before. They might have, and I just haven't seen like the video or a post about it, but a couple of times at the very least, fans have used the fact that the idol is so relatable as like a justification to get them out of being called out for doing something bad, which is so strange to me. That idol's so relatable, they're so kind. They would never say the N-word. It's like, bitch, they said it on video. You can't not have said it when you did say it. This isn't Jeffree Star trying to excuse it because they were in a bad place. I've been in a bad place many times. Not once did the N-word fall out of my fucking mouth just because I was in a bad mood. I've called people bitch, I've called them fuckers, I've called them cunts, because that's words that I say in my daily language. I was about to say the Daily Bugle. I just watched Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Sorry. But like, no. Fuck off. So what are the negatives? Unrealistic standard. It's fucking creepy, honestly. It really creeps me out. It's part of why I haven't gotten into aespa. Their AI versions of themselves freaks me out. If I remember correctly, and do correct me if I am wrong on this, but I remember a promotional video where they were like interviewing their AI versions, and the reason why I'm calling them AI and not VIs is because aespa exists. This is just their AI versions, but they're still in the same video. Their real human counterparts are still in the videos, they're visible, and with virtual idols you don't actually know the real person behind it. That's why I'm calling these AI and not VIs. They were promoted as like identical versions of themselves, just as AI. Bitch, does this look anything like Karina, Winter, Ning Ning, or Giselle? Are you blind? Like, what? The only one that I could justify that looks similar to their AI is Karina. That's it. The rest of them look absolutely nothing like themselves. So I hate that if they had promoted them as game characters, I wouldn't be that bothered. But they've promoted them as AI versions of themselves, and they look nothing like them. No. AI in general freaks me out, to be honest. Obviously, I don't like the concept of VIs, but I just wanted to get that little thing out. That's why I haven't gotten into aespa. While with VIs, things like clothing mess-ups or mental health wouldn't need to be a worry, with the real human beings that idols are, it would probably get worse if there's more VIs about, because now they're being compared to a fake character expected to work towards their beauty and or abilities. When I say abilities, I'm talking about like singing and dancing and shit like that, even though I think the dancing is god awful with the VIs because they're not humans. They're so stiff. Korea already has a fucking ridiculous beauty standard. Adding VIs to the list of things they use to compare idols over is just gonna make things worse. For fuck's sake, Wonyoung got shat on for eating a strawberry a specific way. I hate people. aespa's characters are mostly legs and no bones. They don't actually look like their AI versions. They look like how the company and a toxic audience expects them to achieve. Like they're having to lip sync at this point just because SM wants them to maintain a perfect doll-like image. Because they can definitely sing. They're fantastic singers, they just aren't being allowed to. I think there's a video that shows them lip syncing as well, specifically Winter, and it looks like she's not even tried to fake that they're lip syncing. Like they look annoyed. But not only is this bad for idols as in a health reason, this could also make them lose their jobs if people prefer fake humans over them. It's also bad for fans. A lot of the parasocial relationships between fans and idols are based on their humanness. Like I mentioned earlier, but the relatability. A lot of the relationship between them is to do with the fact that they are relatable, and human. That's one thing everyone can relate to, is being a human being. They also look up to them a lot, especially in terms of looks. Looking up to idols who are having unrealistic standards projected onto them that influences their audience as well is horrible and causes fans to develop things like eating disorders in order to achieve their bodies. How do you think that would go, looking up to a digitally created virtual idol that already has the unrealistic looks naturally? And I know there's probably going to be people who think I'm way overreacting with that. This whole video is based on my own opinions. That is one possibility, where if all idols now became VIs, sketchy. It feels really sketchy. This makes me feel like companies are scamming fans in a way, and I know that might be stretching it, but again, like I said, my opinion, I've made that clear. If you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't. But something about AI idols having albums that you can buy, like physically buy, that's solely having the money go straight to the companies and no chance that they're going to the idols, feels off to me. I know there's a conversation of idols in general not getting paid or being underpaid. I know that's a thing. That's a different conversation for a different video. It feels like a way to steal your money just straight up and not caring for the quality of the content they're actually selling. Most of why it feels sketchy to me is connected to the previous point though, in regards to like losing their jobs and people looking up to fake idols. Credits. Something tells me that any money these companies that plan to have or already have via groups isn't crediting those who are actually the voices of them. Of course, if they want privacy, that's understandable to not credit their real names, but they could very easily just put them under a fake name legally and pay them what they're owed for performing, because they wouldn't have their voices for the characters otherwise. So they deserve the credits, they deserve to be paid for it. And there might be some people who think, well, they don't deserve to get paid fully since they're only voicing them. And to that I say, what do we do with voice actors? We pay them. They're not actually physically acting out the characters, they are voicing them, but they still get a payment. They still get credited. Something tells me that's not what's happening here. It feels like they're just taking all the money to themselves. Overworking. The VIs themselves, obviously, that's not something we need to worry about with them being overworked. However, that worry instead would be directed towards the video editors and those that create the VIs themselves. Depending on how often they come out with content, they could have an incredible amount of shit they'd need to make an edit in a short period of time, and this could very easily make them be forced into editing overtime or barely getting any sleep or personal home time. They could also end up being really badly underpaid, especially if they're working overtime without any extra pay. There's already a lot of problems with payment in the K-pop industry, the music industry in general. I just hiccuped, sorry. There's a general problem with people getting paid in their jobs already, but like, for example, take Japan with anime. They severely overwork and underpay their editors and their illustrators. It's really, really bad. It would not surprise me if that's how K-pop ended up going, if they introduced VIs when they already have that problem at the minute with real people. No connection. Like I mentioned a little bit in the health section, a lot of the draw in K-pop is the connection fans make with their favourite artists. Now, of course, this can definitely go way too far to the point of being unhealthy and dangerous, but that part I won't be talking about as much in depth here, so bear with me for a minute. Fans rely a lot on relating to their favourite idols and supporting them through their journey of artistry and their struggles, or if you're a good fan at least, supporting them. But not just with that, they enjoy seeing the human in them, almost to the point of obsession, which isn't good, and I'm unfortunately a little guilty of that myself. I get excited still when an idol swears because I'm automatically thinking, oh good, they're human, they're not perfect. It's not great, I know that, but the reason behind it is because I'm completely against the amount of severe expectations placed on them, especially with the fact that literally every human being everywhere at this point swears. Like it is a human aspect to swear at this point. I swear. I've sworn at least 5 times already in this video, and it's incredibly hypocritical if you swear and then you call out the idol for swearing, and they all relate it back to, oh, but they have children looking up to them. Here's the thing. How about you stop placing the responsibility of grown-ass adults who do not know your child on raising them and teaching them right from wrong when that's your job as the parent. If you don't want them to be watching or listening to people swearing, you deal with that. The internet is the internet. They will find it one way or another, regardless of whether there's warnings of like, oh, this is 18 plus only. They will find a way. As someone who found a way, they will find a way. Stop. I don't like placing that kind of responsibility on people who do not know you and that you don't know. Because for one thing, that feels more like a factory rather than a group of artists. Like you're wanting them all to act the exact same way and be perfect little dolls. And then on the other, it's more of just, it feels like you just don't want to be a parent. You just expect your kid to know right from wrong. And then if they end up doing things, you blame everyone but yourself. Because let's be real, the reason why I swear so much and where I learned it from was my parents and my school, not the music I listened to. But like, yeah, I learned it from my parents. I learned it from my hometown. I didn't learn it online. I learned more about them from online, but I knew how to say them, and it became a regular part of my vocabulary through my family and my friends, not online. So please stop blaming everybody else. Stop blaming an idol who said shit once because, I don't know, a firework scared the crap out of them, or they hit their head, or they dropped something, or they tripped. That is human, literally. Everyone has done it at some point. Get the fuck over it. But like, this is an example that I'm giving of me connecting things to them being human, where I get happy if an idol swears, because then that automatically for me connects them to being human, because they're not perfect anymore. And it is bad, it's quite toxic, and I'm trying to sort that out. But the reason behind it is solely because of the fact that they're forced to be perfect, they're expected to be perfect, and I don't like that. So then when they don't act perfect, I get excited, because then it feels more real. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where my mind goes when that kind of thing happens. But oftentimes, fans can empathize with idols who are struggling mentally, or dealing with an abusive company or relationship, showing their support when they're being mistreated in general, things like that. And slightly on a different level, fans are pulled in by an idol's presence on stage with their expressions and how they showcase the story of the song through them. But that would be more to do with stage presence though than anything for that kind of stuff, because I am not good at that. As much as I love dancing and I love facial expressions and stuff like that, I am not the person to come to about an opinion on that for a proper analysis. Go watch Everglow Up, because her stage presence, her details, analysing them are really, really fucking good. So go watch them. I'll link her channel in the description for you to go watch her playlist on them. Honestly, just watch all of her videos. They're all very insightful and very well put together. But again, with VIs, you aren't going to have to worry about the negative sides that I just mentioned, so there's nothing to empathize with. But because they're AI, they're fake, they're not real human beings, there's nothing relatable. There's nothing human about them other than the company trying to make them look human without being human. Parasocial relationships can be very bad, but having none at all is also quite bad in that regard, especially if you're wanting money or a loyal fan base. And at that point, just do the real thing. Genuinely, if you're gonna go to the extent of giving them real physical albums, make them do performances and interviews, just make a real fucking group. Genuinely, you just look lazy and like you don't actually want to put in any effort to training people into becoming part of the idol world. That, or you don't like how they look. It's very lazy. It looks incredibly lazy to me. The next thing I want to talk about is how to make it work. And in that regard, I'm going to talk about why does KDA work and not MAVE? People will likely start comparing them, and possibly aespa, and I think there's another VI group. I don't know what they're called though. I'm not very well known about them. The only one I know is MAVE, honestly. And asking like, why do you like one and not the other? That's hypocritical. It's not actually. For me personally, like I said, I haven't explored aespa because the concept creeps me out. Doesn't mean I don't think they're talented though. I have no interest in MAVE because there's nothing to actually connect with other than aesthetics. And I enjoy KDA because they're not trying to be human when they're character promotions. Like that's why KDA works. works. They're characters from League of Legends, a world that already exists, with characters that already existed. I'm pretty sure that the characters in KDA, the ones who the artists are voicing for in the songs, they were new characters that they were promoting. So there's nothing to actually make up. All they did was get music artists to be the voices of these characters in a music video created as a promotional piece for these characters, along with, in my own opinion, bringing in a bigger fan base by grabbing K-pop fans to join in because they got two K-pop artists. They're not trying to make you relate to them. They're not trying to give you unrealistic standards, and they're not trying to take jobs away from idols. They're just characters in a story in a game that had a musical promotion that happened to have two K-pop idols in it. That's literally it. That's why it works. And adding on to that a little bit more, why does relating to stories, books, characters in books and in games, why does that work? Primarily, again, my opinion, primarily it works because they're based off of real human things and they're presenting it and showing it in a story format for you to relate to. That's the whole point. That's why in a lot of instances, if a writer can get you to cry or laugh or be happy for characters or even mad, depends. If you're mad at the entire story, then they did it really badly. But like if they're getting you to emote when they want you to emote with what they want you to emote with in that scene, they wrote it really well. Again, there's certain aspects that need to come in with that, but overall, that means they wrote the story well, because the whole purpose of it was to be relatable. It is to give a story. It is not to give you unrealistic standards, even though in romance right now especially, there is a lot of fucking terrible, terrible romance. What do I think the future of K-pop is in regards to this? Personally, I think that VIs won't become a staple in K-pop overall due to the negatives that I mentioned, even if there are more positives that I stated, but those positives only really affect the company overall, and it doesn't make it actually good or that it will be enjoyable to watch. I think that specifically with MAVE and AESPA, companies may be attempting to make this a bigger thing, but eventually it will fall off because of the stiffness in the dances and facial expressions. The fact that there's nothing to connect or relate to, there's nothing to bring fans back to want more, except if you want to make a game concept where they're characters in a story and not idols. Which honestly, I wouldn't be against that. Like if they had created a game. Thank you, Xbox, for letting me know you're gonna turn off. But if they had created like a game concept rather than their actual idols, and then idols will take the place of them in stage performances and things like that, I feel like that would have worked a bit more. Still would have been weird, but that's not the industry we're currently in, so that isn't an option because they care more about looks. Overall, I don't think there's a big chance this will become any bigger in K-pop compared to real human beings, or at least I hope not. I really, really hope not. Generally, I don't think attempting to make VIs a normal thing, other than for situations like games or movies, is a good thing. But I'm not trying to say that you enjoying their music or liking their dances makes you wrong or bad. If you do enjoy them, then that's up to you. I just think overall it'll end up being really bad for K-pop as a whole. If it remains as just a couple of groups, then I think it'll be fine. I personally won't be supporting them or listening to them, but if it starts to become a situation where all of K-pop artists will be AI versions, then I am dipping real fucking fast. It genuinely freaks me out. I know that might sound really dumb though, but it does. But let me know what your thoughts on the topic are. If you agree or disagree, if you have things you'd like to add, then put them in the comments. Again, don't use this as an excuse to send hate to anyone I mentioned. Use your brain, please. But I'll leave that here and leave any suggestions for topics you'd like me to talk about below. I hope you have a magical time wherever you are. Welcome to the night circus, little jesters. Oh god, I know that ending line is so weird.